I, 29 female, had someone who loved me, supported me, and believed in me, and I threw it all away. I hate what I've done, and I don't know how I became this person, but I have to own it. We were together for 4 years, and living together felt like we were already married. He was the stable one, always working hard and trying to build a future for us. Meanwhile, I was stuck in school, trying to figure out my path, and I had no real direction or ambition. I think that imbalance started eating at me. When I started my travel nursing job, I thought we'd be fine. I came home every week or so, and things seemed normal at first. But I underestimated how much the distance, the loneliness, and my own insecurities would take over. At first, it started small. I sought attention with a guy I met through a friend, sending texts that got a little too friendly. It felt exciting, like I was filling a void. But it didn't stop there. I started talking to multiple guys, and eventually it escalated to sexting, sending pictures, and even meeting up with some of them. There were hookups, quick, meaningless encounters that made me feel wanted for a moment. It didn't matter to me that it was wrong or that I was betraying him. I told myself it was fine because it wasn't emotional. When he started noticing changes, like how protective I'd become of my phone, I tried to deflect. He confronted me once when I was acting strange about a friend's ex whom I was sleeping with around that time, and I apologized and promised I'd stop. But I didn't. I couldn't. The validation I got from others became addictive, and I kept chasing it, even though I hated myself for it. The day he found out, everything was one of the worst days of my life. I had left my laptop open while he was using it, and my messages started popping up. I didn't realize iMessage was still logged in, and when I saw his face as he scrolled through my texts, I knew there was no talking my way out of it. He didn't yell or cry. He just froze, reading through everything. The nudes, the sex, and the explicit messages about what I'd done with other men. He read the words I said about him to one of them, complaining about him being demanding and distant, even though none of it was true. I was just making excuses for what I was doing. He packed his things that night, and I tried to stop him. I told him I was lonely, that I felt isolated while I was away, but it all sounded hollow. I even told him I was suicidal, and while that might have been true in some moments, I see now how manipulative that sounded. I wanted him to feel bad for me, to stay, to give me a chance to fix what I'd destroyed. But why should he? A few weeks later, I heard he'd started seeing someone new. It stung, but I knew I had no right to feel hurt. She seems like a great person, and from what I've seen, he's happier now than he ever was with me. That's hard to accept, but I can't blame him for moving on. If there's anything I've learned, it's that I let my insecurities and selfishness ruin something good. He deserved better than the version of me I gave him, and I'll carry that guilt for a long time. I hope he finds the happiness I couldn't give him, and I hope I can figure out how to stop being the person who caused this much pain. Update: I thought I was ready to let go. It's been months since he left, and I've been trying to focus on myself and move forward. But I had this box of his things still sitting in the corner of my apartment. Clothes, a few books, some random things he left behind when he moved out in a hurry. I thought returning them would be the mature thing to do, a small way to tie up loose ends and maybe see him one last time. So I texted him, just a quick message. Hey, I have some of your stuff here. Let me know if you'd like me to drop it off or if you want to come get it. It was the first time I'd reached out since he left, and I hoped he'd respond. But of course, I was blocked. However, about an hour later, I got a message from his new girlfriend. It was a brief message. Following was the message. Hey, this is X. I'm sure you know who I am. Don't contact him again. He doesn't want anything from you, and you need to stop inserting yourself into his life. Move on. I just sat there staring at my phone. I don't know why it hit me so hard. Maybe it was the coldness of her words, or maybe it was the realization that he really has moved on. Whatever it was, it crushed me. I thought I was finally moving on, but this brought back every ounce of guilt and shame I've been trying to bury. I know I deserve this. I'm the one who destroyed what we had, and I can't expect him or her to be kind to me. Still, it made me feel so low to be in this position and getting reprimanded by strangers. I didn't respond to her message. What could I even say? She's right. I need to move on, but it's harder than I ever imagined. seeing how much he's moved forward with her while I'm still here, sitting with my mistakes and regrets. I ended up taking the box of his stuff to a donation center. It's a small step, but it took every ounce of strength in me to carry it out. I wish I could go back and undo everything, but I can't. All I can do now is try to live with the consequences and figure out how to move forward. Story 2. Have I made the right decision? Head is a mess. I recently found out my partner of 4 years has been having an online affair with someone over the past 2 months or so. Before I go into this, I just want to say, not that it makes her actions excusable, my partner has a very terrible background. Unsupportive, borderline abusive parents, siblings with drug problems, awful job that takes advantage of her, and to top it off, she has no friends to rely on. Because of all of this stuff, the topic of conversation with my partner normally revolves around these negative aspects of her life, something I am more than happy to cater to any time of the day because, well, I love her. She, however, has always felt bad for having to lean on me too much as she is scared it will push me away. This, coupled with the fact she doesn't have any consistent friendships in her life, lead her to seek friendship online to vent her problems so I don't have to face the brunt of it all the time. These past few months have been especially difficult on her, with home getting worse and her job getting to breaking point. She has since handed in her notice. So she had been talking to this guy to discuss her problems. Because of this low point, I can only assume she was in a vulnerable position and through talking to this person consistently, developed feelings for him. Now, I only found out about all of this a few weeks ago when I noticed her talking to him on her phone and saw a flirtatious message. I initially thought nothing of it, but once I took her home, I noticed she left her Facebook logged in on my computer. I know it was an abuse of trust, but I took a look and found flirtatious messaging and her stating she liked him. I held this information to myself and over the last few days relentlessly tried to get her to confirm if I had anything to be worried about. After constantly reassuring me nothing was going on, I just broke down and said I had read her Facebook messages too, which point I asked again to be honest with me. She then confirms she has had phone sex with him 3 times and sent a couple of revealing pictures. She told me she felt awful and disgusted about the whole thing and said she has been trying to cool it off. She apologized profusely, and I told her to block contact with him entirely. I even sat there and watched as she told him she was blocking him, and his walls of texts as he stated I was the easy choice and merely a friendship. Bearing in mind this wanker live in another country. However, I care very deeply for this person, want to spend the rest of my life with her, and understand the extent of how bad her life has been these past few months. We spoke it out, agreed we became complacent in our relationship by not talking as much, doing things together due to work and routines, and her being scared to lean on me too much. So we are looking to make a positive change out of this whole mess. I need to know, have I made the right choice here, or am I just opening myself up for more upset further down the line? We'll gladly delve into more detail if needed. Thanks for reading. Here's the thing. It sounds like you're trying to be incredibly understanding, and that's admirable. You clearly care about her and want to support her through her struggles. But, and this is a big but, an affair, whether physical, emotional, or online, is still a betrayal of trust. The fact that she was in a vulnerable place doesn't excuse what she did, and it's important that you recognize that too. It's good that you've talked it out and are trying to make positive changes, but rebuilding trust takes more than just apologies and blocking the other person. It requires time, consistency, and a genuine effort on her part to address why this happened in the first place. Has she truly taken accountability? Is she willing to work on herself, not just your relationship? These are things you'll need to look for moving forward. As for whether you've made the right decision, only time will tell. If she's genuinely remorseful and committed to rebuilding trust, it might work out. But if this behavior repeats, or you find yourself doubting her all the time, it's worth asking if staying is doing more harm than good for your mental health. The most important thing is to set clear boundaries and expectations moving forward. You deserve to feel secure in your relationship, and that requires her to prove she's worth the second chance you're giving her. It's okay to love her and want to support her, but don't lose sight of your own needs in the process. Keep an eye on whether she's making the effort to meet you halfway, or if you're carrying all the emotional weight.